Hi, in this session I'm going to tell you how to make the player to be able to shoot the orb, and also when the orb collides to an object it shows the hit effect. So from the previous session we made our projectile and also the hit effect, but if you don't have that, that's fine. You can just make a 3D object as just a simple sphere and use this as the projectile. And now let's go to the player. And I want to put the fire attack or magic attack inside the player attack. So even the melee and all of them are just in one code, but you can make it separate. There's no problem. So, and here from magic. So the first thing we need that is we want to be able to instantiate a fire from a specific point. So we need a fire or orb, prefab, and also a place that needs to be instantiated. For example, where? Here, 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 okay? So we have to specify a place. So here I say serialized field, private game object, orb, and this is transform or place. The place that the orb will be instantiated. And also we have to set a timer or the cooldown timer as we had for the melee attack. And can have something like this and say magic cooldown. For example, every 1 second it can do that. And the 2. Now we go to this player manager, which is the input action, and we make another action for attack. For example, I say spell for the orb attack, and yes, this is a button just like the melee attack, and I say okay, just press only and bind it to the right key of the mouse, the right button, and I say yes, save that. And now it is saved. But remember the name, it was spell, so it would be on spell. So I put them here and I say private void on spell. Okay, and then the parentheses. So here I want that my player should be shooting the spell animation. So I go there in the animator, and I found it. I think it was this. Let me see that. It was casting. Yes. So, and I call it trigger spell. Any state to the casting, and it would be spell. And give it to idle. And make sure it is not looped, which is not. Okay. And here we say if because magic cooldown, yes. If timer 2 is more than equal to magic cooldown and isn't attacking, do that. And say anim that set trigger. Okay, show the attack, the spell animation, and the timer 2 will be 0. And as I want that it has delay from the, yes, when the player is here, it shouldn't shoot. Only in the, after this second to this frame, it should start shooting. So I give it a delay. That's why I can use invoke, because it doesn't have any parameter, so I can use invoke. But if it has a parameter, then I should have used the enumerator. So it's a private void per form magic or a spell. And I say instantiate the orb in the orb place, transform that position, and yeah. And then here we say invoke what? Give this as a string after this amount of time, f, instantiate that. And now let's go and see how it works. And I also need to add that the attack and fire to the UI, but right now this is not necessary. After we finish that, we can add this. So let's go here to the player code, in the player attack. So the orb, let it be this one. And the orb place, I'm sorry, the orb place is something that you have to make. So let me make something like an empty game object and call it orb place. And I give this thing so I can see that better. So adjust the position so that it's right in front of the hand of the player. So go to animation, the casting. You see, it should be a little bit here and up. So I bring it a little bit up and here. Now go here and give the or place. And now, okay, it has instantiated that in that place. But now we have to give the code to the orb itself and also make it to destroy if this is not collided to anything. So I go to the projectile, and as it wants to effects to the enemy, it should have a collider. So I give it a, for example, a capsule or sphere collider. And the radius would be, okay, this is fine. And I give it a rigid body because I want that it moves with that. So let's give it a code, script player, and I give the name spell player. Okay, open that and we have a, you can use the transformed position and you don't need to strictly have the rigid body. Just add the rigid body if you want to have the realistic and movement like bounces and interactions. But transform that translate, this is completely fine. So I say private rigid body RB, and RB is equal to get component RB, and I give it a lifetime private float lifetime, for example, to F, and here I say destroy the game object lifetime. So after 2 seconds, the object is destroyed, and I say RB that velocity equals to transform that forward, and I can give it a speed private into speed, for example 10, and you can make it serialized too if you want to increase the lifetime, because you can use this code for different things, for different orbs with different lifetimes. So if you want to give the other lifetime, just make it serialized. Okay, now to speed. So let me tell you what the transform that forward means and how you should um, try to change the direction of your projectile if it is not rounded. For me, this is rounded, that is not important where the direction is. But for example, imagine that you have an arrow, then that would be important and which direction your arrow be. So if I say transform that forward, it means moving from the Z position. It means that it gets this coordination, and for example the head is here, the tail is here for the arrow, and then this goes in this direction. If I say, for example, transform that right, yes, I think, yeah, it would move in the x-axis. Okay, it will move from this direction, the shape. So the head would be here and the tail would be on the other side. And when I say transform that up, then it will move in the y-axis. So now we said that transform that forward, which means that in move towards the z-axis. And this is only for the 3D. For the 2D, we only have up and the right, transform that right, which is the x. But yeah, as I told you, that my shape is a sphere, and that it doesn't matter if it is looking at the other direction. Okay, and add this one to this. You see, it's something like that. You can change the speed if you want, but there's some problem. It just moves in that direction, in its z direction, no matter what I look at. So I have to get a direction from the player position and apply that to the direction of the orb. So here I say private vectors 3, direction, and I say direction in speed. Then I will make a method that will be called from the player movement. So I make it public. Void, and I say set the direction for the spell. So I say set spell direction, which is a vector 3, a dr, which means direction. And here I say this is equal to dr dot, and I say normalize, so in every direction it would have the same speed, and I'll update that from the player movement. A private spell player. Oh, I can go to attack, and we can do that as soon as the orb has been instantiated. Okay, let's assume we have this. Okay, here that it is, mm, the orb is instantiated and has this code. Okay, and I say, okay, game object orb um, object is equal to that, and then I say, okay, this is equal to orb object that gets component. Yes, a spell player. Then I can say a spell player that set direction. Yeah, set a spell direction. Transform that forward. So I put the transform that forward of the player to the transform that forward of the spell. So player and the spell has the same forward or z-axis. They are in the same line, you know. And also, if your spell is not yes, it's not like a sphere, and that it has a tail and a head. So it consists of a different part in the head and the tail. So it's better that you rotate the head of that toward the mm, to the forward direction. So you can say spell player dot transform dot rotation equals to quaternion dot lock rotation transform dot forward. So the problem is fixed. Now let's go and try the game. So I do this, and in every direction it works fine. And it also is destroyed after 2 seconds. It just have a realistic movement. You can make it, for example, goes into the straight line, and the gravity wouldn't apply to that. But I think that's, yeah, let's do that. Just go to your projectile and uncheck the use gravity. No, it just goes forever, not forever, for 2 seconds, and then this is disappeared. But this is not complete. Here, we want to say that on collision inter. Okay, it collides to something and it instantiate that heat effect. So I say instant. Let me go here and serialized fill private game object heat or heat effect. Yes, it's better. I say instantiate the heat effect. Now you can just say, okay, in the transform that position, and don't rotate that. If you want to rotate that, you can do that. And we want that the game object that is the spell or the orb be destroyed. But this has been disinstantiated, and we have to also destroy that after some seconds. So we need to give it a code as well. So let's go to script, and I say destroy things, whatever that you want to destroy, um, and it just has no other specific code. You can use this one. So here I just say serialized field, private float, just lifetime, which by default is 1F. And I don't need update, and I say destroy game object lifetime. And I give it to the heat effect or anything that you want that it would be destroyed after a certain amount of time. Projectile. Now here he has a heat effect. Which one? Say this one. So I think that was good. Yeah, it has a heat effect as well. And later, as we add the enemy health, we also make them to lose health when I shoot these things to them. But right now, it's just nothing. So also you can go and give that card to your next projectile as you did it here. You gave it a sphere collider, rigid body. Give it to your other projectile and test it as well.